Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, police in Loveland are under the microscope over how they handled DUIs after a man claims he was wrongfully accused of drunk driving.
I just didn't understand how someone who was completely sober could be led away to the jail and embarrassed and humiliated in the ways that I was.
We take a look at the process the department follows and how victims of drunk drivers say police aren't doing enough.
Well, we all know the pain of potholes. Crews are busy repairing them right now. But we're looking into an effort to create concrete that could prevent those potholes from forming at all. And people who want to stay in their homes but may need the support a retirement community can offer are getting a new resource, the different type of support system that's growing nationwide.
Plus, one of Denver's oldest theater companies might be gone for good.
It's terribly sad, but I've been fighting it all my life.
How 30 years of history is becoming yet another victim of city redevelopment. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jason GRUENAUER. There's another lawsuit against police in Loveland, this time claiming the police department has a history of wrongfully handing out DUIs. Today in court, a complaint was filed detailing nearly 20 instances where drivers were arrested. The problem, tests showed that they either had nothing in their system or next to nothing. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon went to Fort Collins today to meet the man behind that lawsuit. Colette?
And Jason, his name is Harris Elias. He's a father, a pilot, and has been in Fort Collins for around 5 years now. This body camera video is from January of 2020 when he says he was driving home from a dinner party at his girlfriend's house. He was pulled over, arrested, and cited for driving drunk. But around 2 months later, the blood test showed there was nothing in his system. Now he wants to make sure police departments don't have any kind of incentives for certain arrests.
It takes a lot to stand in integrity and say, hey, I made a mistake. And it's what I would expect from a 7-year-old, and it's what I expect from the chief of police.
His lawyer doesn't think the city will want to settle the lawsuit because of how many cases there are, but they are looking for $1.5 million in damages for Elias. And more than that, want to see the department reformed. At 5, I'll show you what the police had to say at a press conference about drunk driving from earlier in the week. Live in the newsroom, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Colette, thank you. Governor Jared Polis is backing new bills aimed at combating climate change and improving the air quality in Colorado. Those bills were introduced at the state capitol today. Most of them provide grants to companies who reduce air pollution. Others put money towards more electric school buses and offering electric bikes to employees. Another bill would let you ride for free on RTD during the month of August. No fares at all. It's to encourage more use of public transportation. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, President Joe Biden announced today the U.S. will release a record amount of crude oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. That's a stockpile of 600 million barrels stored underground in caverns in Louisiana and Texas. 1 million barrels a day will be released from the reserves, 1 million a day, in an effort to reduce gas prices. Tapping deeper into that reserve isn't going to fix the problem or totally drop prices, but it is some action being taken by the White House.
It's time to deliver true long-term energy independence in America once and for all, and I'm going to continue to use every tool at my disposal to protect you from Putin's price hike.
One of those tools, the president also announced plans to use the Defense Production Act to try to move our country towards energy independence.
Well, if it feels like you're running out of money faster, the numbers back it up. The news feed starts with the key inflation gauge hitting its highest year-over-year rise since January 1982. Gas and food prices are the areas where you are seeing prices spike sharply compared to this time last year. Home prices are also hitting historic highs. Realtor.com says for the first time ever, the national median price for a home is $405,000. Experts say the number is so high that it could finally mean a drop with so many people who are just being priced out of the market. Well, the numbers we're getting from the government on unemployment could be telling a story. The amount of people applying for unemployment going up, but the amount of people being laid off is low. Experts say this could just be an example of the Great Resignation continuing on with a record number of people quitting their jobs. Federal student loan borrowers paid an average of $300 a month before the pandemic. That adds up to a savings of more than $7,000 since the pause went into effect in March 2020. That's according to experts at Student Loan Hero. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has been considering forgiving $10,000 per borrower. So you may be wondering, what's the difference as the average savings from the federal pause gets closer to that $10K forgiveness?
For these borrowers, the bill will eventually come due. So the government is sort of guaranteeing the fact that it will recoup the money that it's losing right now as soon as borrowers resume their monthly payments.
Now that is slated to happen May 1st, but the Biden administration has another factor to consider this time around on whether the pause should be extended for a fifth time. Millions of borrowers now have a new loan provider, and that transition hasn't been exactly smooth. Legally, borrowers should get a total of 6 notifications from either their provider or the education department about payments starting back up. But reports from NPR and Politico say this has not been happening. Meanwhile, 2 bills introduced in Congress could also decide what happens. One would put a ban on future pauses and possibly open the door to that $10,000 in forgiveness. The other would extend the pause until 2023. But experts say one of those options is more beneficial for those who are not borrowers.
Certainly, that's one of the arguments for ending this moratorium sooner rather than later, is so that the taxpayer is not as affected as they would be under a mass student loan forgiveness plan.
But no matter what happens on May 1st, Student Loan Hero says, make sure you're prepared. Consider contacting your servicer now to establish a payment plan that fits your budget.
Our call center lines are open right now. These folks are standing by to take your donations to the Feed Colorado food drive. Your generosity up to this point will help put food on tables across Colorado through Meals on Wheels and the City Harvest Food Bank. But the CEO of ARC Thrift Stores told me earlier that food insecurity is an issue year-round.
As we continue with our Feed Colorado drive, the need for food out there. Tell me about what it's like in our state.
Yeah, there is an even greater need for food this time of year. After the pandemic, food insecurity is up an overwhelming 20%. 20%. What that means is that 1 in 8 people, 1 in 8 Coloradans has trouble accessing food. So the need is even greater this year.
The number to call to donate is right there on your screen, 303-777-7492. That line will be open until 6:30 tonight, but you can donate now and later tonight by following the links over on thedenverchannel.com/feedcolorado. We'll be right back.